Okay, so we're doing the urinary system because I think it's easy and fun and thought it'd be a nice little break. So you've done some kind of hard stuff lately, right? Blood was a lot, pharmacology's a lot. So I thought it'd be a good little mental break. So a lot of this you probably have an idea of already. So what do we already know about urine or kidneys or anything? Natalie, what's one?
It's involuntary.
Okay, good. So like you're going to the bathroom is involuntary muscle-wise because it's not like you have to squeeze your bladder to urinate. Good, I like it. Carly?
You can use cystocentesis.
What's that?
To remove urine from the bladder if you need to test it.
Good. How do you do it?
With a needle and syringe.
Good. A really long needle, right? It's a 1.5 inch 22 gauge needle instead of a 1 inch. So you just put the animal on their back, usually their back, some vets like them on their side, and you feel their bladder, which feels like a balloon, and poke it. Good. More.
It can tell you, your urine tells you your hydration levels with color and turbidity.
Okay, so hydration levels, color. What color is urine normally for the animals we work with? Yellow, light yellow. Okay. Turbidity, what is that? How,
Like
what?
cloudy.
Yeah, how cloudy is it? Should it be cloudy?
No.
Not for dogs and cats or people. But if it's cloudy, what's going on probably? Like, what does that mean? If you see that it's cloudy, you're like, oh, I think this is going to be interesting. What might you see?
Crystals?
Crystals. Good. What else?
Oh, Dory, yummy.
Can someone let Rocky potty, please? Okay, crystals. What else could you find? Under the microscope. Crystals will form into stones. Crystals will form into stones. We're going to talk about stones.
Bacteria?
Bacteria. What else? What can you find under the microscope? Really?
I feel like it's like
Well, like I'm thinking of parasites, but like that's
Small chance. Parasites, very small chance, yes.
Usually,
And fecal, yeah, fecal much more often. Yep.
say like for if you have a male dog, maybe sperm.
Yeah, it's great. You can find sperm in there if it's a real fresh sample. Good. What else? Signs of a UTI. Bacteria. Blood. Blood.
Wouldn't that change the color, not the turbine, or whatever it's called?
Well, if there's enough blood, it's actually, when you spin it, it'll sit at the bottom. So it is, if there's enough. Change the color and it'll be a little cloudy. What else would be in UTI? Yes, bacteria still, yeah. White blood cells, yes. White blood cells would be in there too. Okay. The other one would be casts, but you guys, we don't normally see those. Casts are something that tell whether a part of the urinary tract is not working very well, like in the kidney. So we don't really get into that. Good. What else do you already know? What makes up the urinary tract? What are some combining forms? What can go wrong?
Renal and nephro.
What's that? Renal.
Kidneys.
Kidney, yeah. Reno and nephro, kidneys. What's cysto? You said cystocentesis. What's cysto then? Bladder. Good. So cysto is bladder. What else do we know? We know we have a bladder. What else do we have? I know this is painful, but I'm not letting you get off the hook. What else do you have? You have a bladder. What attaches to the bladder? It's part of the urinary tract. Urethra. Do you know where that is? You just remember hearing about it or see it.
Like outside.
Yes, it empties from the bladder to the outside is the urethra. So how many of those do you think we have? Just one. Yeah, just one tube leading to the exit. All right. Then what's above the bladder? Ureters. Where do they go?
The kidneys.
To the kidneys. So how many kidneys do we have?
2.
So how many ureters do we have?
2.
Good. What else do we know? What can go wrong? What can go wrong? What's one thing that can go wrong? Bladder stones, yes. Uroliths. Bladder stones. Good.
Could there be a bladder infection?
Could be an infection, yeah. Usually a urinary tract infection. So that might be based in the bladder. It might be, you can even have like kidney infections. They're thinking that's what Wilson has. That's why he's on antibiotics. What else can go wrong? Kidney stones, yeah. For some reason, animals don't get those as much as people, which is probably nice. Yep, good. What else can go wrong?
With kidney failure?
Yeah, kidney failure. Not good at all. Not good at all. Okay. You can't live without 2 kidneys. We were talking about that before we recorded the video. Do you know what humans have to do if their kidneys aren't working? I mean, ultimately, they might need a transplant if someone's willing to give up their kidney or use a cadaver. Starts with a D. You have to go to the hospital. Die? If it's bad enough. Yeah, touche. Die, yeah. But they have to go. Is that what she said? Die?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They have to go to the hospital like 2 to 3 times a week.
We just did this over. I know this word.
Dialysis, yeah. So we actually use like a machine to filter their blood. Because the blood goes through the kidneys. We're gonna talk about that. Anything else? How about dipsticks? Proteins in there. What else? What shows up? pH, glucose. What's glucose? Sugar. So if it's really, really high, what might that be?
That's gonna be like
Diabetes.
What's the B on the?
Bilirubin. Bilirubin.
Someone that starts with a K.
it's called this cat.
Like it's like KUT.
Urobilinogen.
You're asking the wrong girl.
Ketones. Is it
Yeah.
ketones? Okay. I have to
Yeah,
think about that one. You got Mrs. Cook's brain going now. Alright, well I think that's a good start. Had to pull a couple teeth, but that's okay. So I just put some pictures of ideas that pop to my mind when I think of urine. So some cool crystals. Here's Lexi's sperm that she was talking about. There's white blood cells, red blood cells. We didn't talk about skin cells. Did I tell you that story about the Great Dane? Rain Man. Rain Man was an older Great Dane, and he would pee, and we would always analyze his samples. And like every time he came in, he would have more and more blood in his urine. You couldn't really see it, but we would put it on the refractometer, and it'd be like greater than 1050 every time, and there would be blood in it. And so I kept telling the vet, "You should probably take him to the vet. You should probably take him to the vet." So a student was looking at his urine one day, and they saw. It's kind of hard. Can you see the outline around that? Can you see like the dot and then an outline? It looks like a pancake with a dot in it. Okay, that's called a transitional epithelial cell, and that's all they look like is a circle with a dot, and that dot is the. What do you think that dot is? In a cell, the nucleus. Okay, so usually most cells have one nucleus, but a student was looking through the microscope and they saw this circle with like 3 dots in it. And so we always say, like, you should know what normal looks like. So when you see abnormal, it alarms you. Okay, we're not the vets, so we're not going to diagnose, but we should know enough to think, that's weird, let me get someone. Okay, so that's what this student did. I was very proud of him or her, I can't even remember who it was now. And so I look under the microscope because she's like, she or he is like, this looks weird, what is this? And it was these epithelial cells with many nuclei in it. It's very abnormal. And usually 9.9 times out of 10, it means cancer. So when the owner came, and I saw tons of them, there were tons of them in there. So when the owner came, I was like, can you please take him to the vet? Now, like, really, if there's any important time ever, this would be it. Take him to the vet. So it turned out he had cancer. And so it was, I think, in his prostate. And so they neutered him, and that actually bought him some time before the cancer started to spread. So we bought the dog some time, all because we knew what normal looked like. So we were alarmed when we saw not normal. There's your kidney. What's that? So we use that to look at the concentration of the urine, right? Urinalysis. Oh, there's Rain Man's story. That's a better picture of it. I forgot that was on there. All right, so the renal system, this is the first part of your notes. This is a way that we get waste out of our body. And believe it or not, it's hooked up to our blood, which I think is kind of weird. Like, we're peeing urine, but it's actually waste from our blood. So it's a great filtration system, and I'm going to show you how that works a little bit later on. But you can think of it as the filter on your faucet. If you guys ever use like one of those, I don't remember the names of them, filtration systems, or if you hook up your camper and it has a filter on it, right? So you're getting rid of yucky stuff. In this case, so we don't drink it. But in our case, in our body, and in our dog and cat's body, in every single body, we all have kidneys, we're gonna filter the yucky stuff, the waste from our blood, okay? So urino, like urine, urinalysis, and uro are combining forms for the entire urinary tract, okay? There's a lot of vocabulary. A lot of it you're already familiar with, though. What does the prefix poly mean? Poly. A lot. Many. A high number. So polyuria means that you're peeing more frequently than is normal. Peeing too much. Polygon, polydactyl. What's polydactyl? Remember? Polydactyl. It's on cats.
Oh,
Yeah, they have extra toes. Toe or toes. So polyuria, peeing too much. Renal. You already told me that. It's relating to the kidneys. Like Lexi said, renal failure. The urinary system, we're just removing wastes from the body. And that helps us maintain, you remember this word, homeostasis. Keeping everything in balance, keeping everything in check. I think this is a fun word, uropoiesis. Poiesis is production of urine. The process of urine production, uropoiesis. Urinalysis, you get to do that every Friday. I had a dream last night that on Fridays I had 28 students and there were like 13 dogs here, and it was just me. It was awful. It wasn't even a dream, it was a nightmare. It was so bad. There were like kids like putting bandages all over the dog and stuff. It was crazy. I was like, oh no. It was so bad. I didn't even think about it till now. I can't tell you who was in it, so you don't have to worry about that. It was weird. Okay, anyways. Have you ever heard of incontinence? If you're incontinent, you're probably not, but your grandmother maybe. Or your great grandmother. What do old ladies sometimes have to wear?
Diapers?
Diapers. Why?
Because they can't hold their pee in.
So it's not like they pee, but they leak. They dribble. Okay. It's most common in females, so it'll be your turn sometime. Okay? And it just leaks out a little bit. Their sphincter doesn't have as much control. Sphincter is like sphincter opening, clamps it. You know how when you have to pee really bad and you're like holding it tight? Okay, that's your sphincter. Okay, but their sphincter, it ain't what it used to be. And so it dribbles out a little bit. So it's not that they're peeing, it's just they're leaky. It's like a leaky faucet. Drip, drip, drip. So in animals, that's usually females. And people too. All right. Parts of our urinary system. We're going to go into detail for each of these. We have 2 kidneys. They look like kidney beans. We have 2 ureters. I think that's a funny word. We only have 1 bladder. And then we have 1 urethra that goes to the outside. So we'll talk about kidneys first. Kidneys, this is where our urine is formed. We're going to make our urine here. And Amber told us reno and nephro are the combining forms for this organ. Well, these organs, because there's 2. And they're kind of cool. They're like, if you feel, you gotta push really hard, the end of your rib cage, kind of like right here, they sit right there under that lumbar muscle. That, you know, like the tenderloin in a deer?
Yeah.
Or the fish, right? It sits right under there. And it's good if you don't feel them, because really you only notice them when you're palpating if they're enlarged or if they're lumpy, which probably means cancer. So they're really hard to feel anyways. Then we have our ureters that lead from the kidneys to the bladder. You need the urine to go somewhere, right? You can't just dump it out of the kidney. So we've got 2 tubes connecting to our bladder. And our combining forms for that, ureter something. So like if you had ureteritis, what would that mean? They're inflamed, yeah. Inflammation of the ureters. Then you have our bladder. So we just have 1 bladder. It is hollow, means it's empty, so you put urine in it. And it's surrounded in muscle. It just holds our urine. It's like a storage spot. And our combining form for this is cysto. So Carly's cystocentesis. So we can poke it and get some urine out. So we can do a urinalysis. So a 25-pound dog, that's about the size of a Boston, maybe a small Sheltie, small beagle, can hold 100 mLs of urine. So I'm gonna go get something out in the lab to show you how much urine that is. And then we have a urethra. So there's a lot of writing here. I'm gonna let you write that down and then I'll come back. Urethra. bladder to the toilet, or to the grass, or to your carpet. And we have a combining form of urethra. And the thing about the urethra is it's different, whether it's a male or a female. So, in females, the only thing that's carried in the urethra is urine. Okay? It's completely self-contained, right? But for boys, it also carries reproductive fluid. And so that would be sperm, semen, and that's why Lexi said sometimes if you look in urine, you can see sperm swimming around. It's not that there's sperm in the bladder, but it's that the urethra carries the reproductive fluid as well. So there's a double whammy there. Make sense? Okay. So, I'm just trying to explain. Okay. So I have a fake bladder here. I said a little dog can hold this much urine. So I have 100 mLs in here so you can feel how heavy that is. That's how much urine a dog of that size can hold. Okay? Here's our sphincter. We talked about incontinence. And our sphincter muscle is squeezed shut, keeping our urine in. Okay, and then our bladder gets bigger and bigger because it's stretchy. And Natalie said about the nervous system, it says, ah, my goodness, I've got to pee. That's because it's stretching, okay? And then our nervous system tells our sphincter, all right, Natalie's on the toilet, go ahead and let up, right? And then she can urinate, okay? It's not that she's like telling herself to do that. All right, where are they located? They are located, this is kind of interesting. If you do a dissection, okay, you actually have to cut the lining of the abdominal cavity because they don't sit inside the abdominal cavity. They sit outside of it, right up against that muscle. So the word for that is retroperitoneal. So retro just means behind. The peritoneum, which is that lining of the abdominal cavity. That is so loud, Rocky. You're being destructive. You should see my floors in my house.
Oh my gosh. That's nasty.
Alright. So a little bit more terminology. They're located in the dorsal. Where's dorsal? Back. So they're located close to your back. Just ventral to the most cranial lumbar vertebrae. So that just means that it's sitting right above where your lumbar vertebrae start. So right about here. No, I'm not going to test you on that, so don't worry. Oh, there's some kidneys. So they're usually a reddish color, just like a kidney bean. Surely that's where they got the name for kidney beans. And usually they're kind of a smooth texture, but the shape depends on what species, all right? So like number 1, lapine or lapine is a bunny rabbit. 2 is a kitty cat. 3 is a dog. 4, porcine. You know what that is? Oink, oink. Piggy. 5, ovine. You know what ovine is? Close.
Sheep.
Caprine. Yeah, ovine is sheep. Caprine is goat. Bovine is number 6. Now that's a calf. Okay, so a young cow. This is an adult cow. They're weird looking, aren't they? There's lobes on them, but that's normal for a cow. And then this is a horse. That's a weird shape as well. Not so much kidney bean shaped. Okay? But all the ones we work with look pretty much like a kidney bean to me. So this structure, we're not going to go in depth, okay? I just want you to know where each one is. okay, as far as layers are concerned. So the first thing we have is a renal capsule. So if you think of a capsule as a medication that you take, what is a capsule? What is a capsule versus a tablet? You know?
A capsule has like an outer layer with the medicine inside.
Yeah, it's an outer layer. It could be liquid inside if you have like, you know, that Aleve or Advil liquid gels, or it could be a powder inside, like apomorphine that we opened up and put into the conjunctiva of the eye. So a capsule is the outside layer of the kidney. It's just a membrane, a lining that just surrounds the kidney. But then on the inside, we're going to divide it into 3 sections. I don't want you to know what happens in any of those sections except for one, which is the renal pelvis. Okay, so the cortex is this outside layer. That's the cortex. Do you remember where we saw the word cortex before? It was in bones.
I think there's a spongy part in the middle and there's a hard part on
Yes.
the outside.
Which one was cortex?
The hard outside cover.
That's exactly right. Outside, it means bark of a tree in Latin, bark of a tree. So the outermost layer is the cortex, right? The renal medulla is the inner part. So that's this, it's like a softer appearance there, is the medulla. And then the inside is where all the fun happens. That is the renal pelvis, which is that yellow, weird looking, very inside layer. And this is where we do that filtration. This is where the important stuff happens. Okay? All right. Can we go more, or do you want to stop there and see how much more there is?
We don't have that much more. There's nephron, female, and male.
But we have to go over the diseases, though.
Oh my gosh, Mom, you're gonna get me out of my chair.
Let's stop there. Split it in half. Right? Okay, here's what I want you to do. This won't take you long. If you want to do it at home, you can play with it somehow. Why don't you get some Play-Doh out of the cabinet back there and work with a partner, but both of you have to make a urinary tract, okay, made out of Play-Doh. And I want you to go over the parts, and I want you to go over the functions with a partner, but you both make it. Then when you're done, you're going to do this little diagram that I gave you. All right, and you can just show that to me as a little exit slip. So if you're at home, you can just send me a picture of that. Due by midnight.